Hey everybody, Coach Toolshed here, and today I want to take a quick look at a game that came out a few years ago because the sequel for this game is coming out later this week, and I wanted to discuss a few things about the franchise in general, stuff that probably is going to get omitted from many of the reviews that are coming up. The game I'm talking about coming out later this week is Nioh 2, if you haven't guessed from what you see on the screen, and this is footage from the previous game Nioh, which came out in 2017. Now, this is a game that I beat. I actually have the Platinum Trophy for it on PlayStation 4, so I put a good amount of time into the game, and I want to discuss a few of the ins and outs of the game, stuff that I didn't really hear mentioned at all before I purchased this game back a few years ago, and stuff that I think is very pertinent to the experience of the game. Not necessarily bad stuff, but information that I wish I knew and stuff that I think a lot of players might want to know before they decide to purchase a game. This is especially if you've never played the previous game. This is information that you might not know if you just have sort of a passing knowledge of the game or just are relying on some of the mainstream websites and review sites to give you your information, because they're not going to cover a lot of this stuff. They're going to give you a very blanket review for this game because, let's face it, a lot of them probably aren't even going to finish it. So let's just get into some of the technical things that I want to discuss here. Now, first things first, what is this game? Well, it's most commonly known as being Koei Tecmo's answer to From Software's Dark Souls series. This is known as Samurai Souls for many years before Sekiro actually came out, but Nioh sort of is the counterpart to From Software's famous Soulsborne series that many people know about. Now, out of all of these Souls clones that we've seen over the past generation, and there has been many of them, I will say that Nioh, as far as I'm concerned, is far and away the #1 competitor to the From Software title. I don't think Nioh really holds up as well as the From Software games. I prefer the From Software games overall, but Nioh in and of itself is also an excellent game with fantastic technical combat, and there's a lot of options going on, and in many ways it does surpass From Software, but the overall experience, I will have to say, I still think these Soulsborne games are definitely my cup of tea over Nioh. However, overall, in 2017, this was one of my favorite games of the year. It's really an excellent total package. There's a lot going on, stuff that, which is the reason why I'm making this video here today, stuff that doesn't get talked about a lot, because, like I said, a lot of times people just compare this game to Souls, and that's all that a lot of people know about. Now, I will say, is this game difficult? Yes, it is. Is it impossible to beat? No, not at all, because there's a lot of tricks that the game gives you, a lot more different options that are not available in the From Software games. You have a lot more at your disposal, a lot more tricks, a lot more customization involved with your character and what you can do and build out your character in different weapons and different types of damage you can deal and different skills, all sorts of stuff like that. And I want to discuss all that here today because that is the purpose of the video. Now, one thing you should know about the game is that this is not your typical open world type of Souls games where you'll go through one interconnected world and beat bosses to progress to the next area. This is a mission-based game, very similar in structure to, say, a Diablo, but with sort of a Destiny veneer. What do I mean? Well, you're going to have a world map, and then you can select different locations from your world map, which will open up a sub-menu and will open up different locations in each spot that will have a list of different missions you can do. There's main story missions and sub-missions in each location. So that's similar to what Destiny does, where you have the different planets you can go to. In this case, it's set in Japan, so you just go to different areas of Japan, but the structure and the setup is very similar, where you're just going out, you're completing a mission, you have to defeat a boss or complete some sort of activity, defeat a certain amount of enemies in some of the sub-missions, and then you'll come back with your reward. Then you'll go back out and do it again. As far as what I mean when I say it's sort of like a Diablo game, is this game is very much a gear-based game. When you beat a boss, the boss is going to explode with a little bit of loot. You're going to have probably a couple weapons, pieces of armor, and some various other goodies that the boss will drop. And after you actually beat the game, a lot of people don't even know this, once you beat the game, it opens up and becomes even more difficult. And a lot of people say who played the game as the developers actually intended it to be played, it's actually a gear-based grinding game. A lot of people don't know that. Now, the reason why people don't really understand that a lot is because the base game itself has so much content in it. There's a lot of different missions and submissions to do. In fact, by going through all of the missions just in a normal manner and beating the game, I put in over 100 hours into the base game doing all of the submissions and all of the trial modes and all the separate stuff that was available in the game on my way to getting the platinum. So there's a lot of just content in the game. Now, admittedly so, there's a lot of recycled content in the game and some stuff where it's just like, okay, I don't really know why you need to do a separate submission for this. This is kind of repetitive. Now, the developers say that they are aware of the scenarios that they set up in the first game and how there was a lot of repetition. There wasn't a whole lot of enemy variety, and they say that they've improved that in the second game. We'll have to see. I don't know. Obviously, I haven't played the game myself. But as far as the first game goes, there's more than enough content to justify a full playthrough of the game and feel like you got your money's worth. And after you beat the game, you don't necessarily have to worry about doing the extra grind and stuff like that. I guess in a way you could consider that something like what I did when I played Borderlands 3. That's another game where it is designed where you can keep playing it after the game is over. You can turn up the difficulty and keep grinding for gear if you want. Or you can just play through the game once. It's got a decent amount of content, and then you can just kind of be done with it. In the case of Nioh, like I said, it took me over 100 hours to get the Platinum Trophy, so after I was done, I pretty much put the game down. I have gone back over time to play some of the DLC, and I have helped out a subscriber, actually, on the channel, asked me at one point to help them play through some of the game, and I popped in for a little bit and helped them play. Now, when I say this game is a gear grind, I'm kind of selling it a little bit short. When it comes to gear customization, this game has some of the deepest systems that I've seen, especially when it comes to a melee-based action role-playing game such as this. There is an insane amount of customization you do, far more than you can do in any of the Soulsborne games, and really, like I said, I don't think you would be able to find another type of action game like this where you will have so much customization options. All of the gear in the game can be re-rolled many times. There's a deep forge system. You can change the look of your gear. Your weapons can all add different types of elemental damage. You can have all sorts of weapons. You can level them up, make them stronger, swap out their abilities. You can just keep rolling and re-rolling and set up the perfect set of gear. There's armor sets you can go and grind and get for, and you can try to level those up. You can roll different tiered gear into new gear to sort of level up. If you find a piece of gear that you like, you can keep leveling it up by adding newer, more powerful gear to it. It has any sort of gear customization option you can think of. It actually has it. Now, I'm not saying, oh, there's lots of colors, you can change all the cosmetic looks. The cosmetic looks in the first game were kind of limited. I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit more in the second game because you're not even set with a fixed character. In the second game, you're going to be able to create your own character, which was not an option in the first game. So there should be more customization options as far as your looks go in the second game. But I would also expect to see a really, really deep customization system for your gear. So if that's something that interests you, this game will have that far more than, like I said, any of the Souls games. This game has a ton of stuff very similar to, like I said, a Diablo type game where there's all sorts of different ways you can build out your character if that's the path you want to go down. You can really sink your teeth into this game if you want to. Now, Nioh does have some razor-tight combat, and it is very technically demanding. There's a lot of button inputs. You're going to have to really learn the systems. It's not the sort of game where you can just jump into and sort of dabble in it. If you want to play the game, you do have to dedicate some time into it. It is not a very arcadey type of hack-and-slash game. You definitely need to learn the game. I would say it's probably one of the more technical melee combat systems that you're going to find, especially in a more actiony type of game. It's very technically demanding. However, it's not too difficult to learn over time, and after you go through the game for a while, it does become second nature. But there's all sorts of stamina regen stuff. I could get into the technical details. It's called ki in the game, but I don't want to get bogged down with too many technical details. It's basically your stamina, but you can recharge that. There's different skills and magic and ninja skills that you can use at your disposal. All sorts of different customizations you can use for that. You can really build out your character. Everybody's character is going to play a little bit differently, and that's one of the nice things about the game. There's several different weapons types that you can specialize in, and each weapon style has its own different weapon sets that you can learn. You can learn all sorts of different moves that are particular to that one weapon, and you can learn and train in those, put your points into those, and that will help to further customize your character. There's all sorts of different stuff you can do in this game. Like I said, this is not a game that you're going to want to just jump into. I just want to let everyone know, if you're going to play this game, you're going to have to put in some effort into it, and not just because the game is demanding from a challenging level. It is also something that you're going to have to put time into to learn the mechanics, learn the systems involved. There is a lot more to this game than probably going to be let on in a lot of the reviews that will just write it off as Samurai Souls 2020. So, now the reason I'm doing this video is not to try to scare you out of buying the game. I just want you to know what you're getting yourself into, because I feel like tomorrow or whenever the review embargo lifts, you're going to have a lot of different information coming up, and I don't think that they're going to dig too deep into stuff like this, because I actually went back and checked some of the older reviews from some trusted reviewers that people like here on YouTube, and checked out to see what they had to say about the game when it first came out. They didn't really mention a whole lot of this stuff about the gear system and the customization involved. They just sort of compared it to Dark Souls, which is just sort of the surface level comparison that you can make to try to get the general public to kind of know what the game is. And while there are definitely similarities, Nioh itself is its own animal, and I just wanted to point that out. And I wanted to point out that if you're going to get involved in this game, you're definitely going to have to put the effort in, but that shouldn't scare you away. If you want to put the time in, it's a really good single player game. There also is some co-op optional. You can play with a friend if you can sync up, but it is mainly a single player game. And in the first game, they didn't add any microtransactions or anything like that. They just had paid expansion DLC, which was actually pretty meaty. Now again, the first game was not perfect. It did have some issues. Definitely a lot of padded content, I think. But overall, it was an excellent game, I feel, and one of the best games of 2017. I'm looking forward to playing the sequel, and I just wanted to get this information out for anybody who might be on the fence, or someone who hadn't played the first game, wanted to have a little bit more information about what they might expect in Nioh 2. Anyway, that's it from me, Coach Toolshed. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please subscribe if you want to stay in tune with the channel headed forward, and as always, keep it turned to 11.